In those days, anybody could come to America, from anywhere. Chinese came for gold in California and stayed to build the first transcontinental railroad. From both east and west, immigrants laid the tracks and built the cities in between. By the turn of the century, millions were pouring in from Eastern and Southern Europe. Italians, Greeks, Poles, Slavs, Hungarians, Russians, Jews came to build America.
They built the factories, they built the railroads, they built the roads, they built the sewers and the subway systems and the water systems. Immigrants were recognized as necessary for the economic growth of the United States. But throughout the period of mass migrations of the late 19th and early 20th century, immigration developed in tandem with an increasingly noisy, angry nativist movement that said, we can't accept the flotsam and jetsam of the entire world.
The backlash was vicious. Editorial cartoons attacked immigrants' ethnic features and questioned their patriotism. The clamor had increasing political consequences. The Chinese were the first to be excluded by an act of Congress in 1882.
Demands for restriction on immigration rose based on fears of the radical ideas that immigrants supposedly brought with them into the United States, fears of the racial inferiority of immigrants from Asia and from Southern and Eastern Europe.
In 1924, fear won out. A transparently racist immigration law created a rigid quota system. All Asians were barred, and immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe were severely restricted. But while America's doors were closed to many millions, it stayed open for Mexicans. America needed Mexicans to pick its fruit and vegetables and to work in its factories.
They didn't have enough people that they could hire, and they were importing a lot of people from Mexico to work like in Iowa, to work in Oklahoma or whatever, in Chicago for the railroads.
More than 80 years ago, 8-year-old Arturo Velasquez came to America with his father, Eliseo, a small businessman eager to escape the chaos and poverty afflicting Mexico. Mexico in the 1920s was a troubled land, racked by years of revolution, civil war, and economic turmoil. To feed their families, Mexicans went north for jobs.
The agriculturalists and industrialists not only welcome Mexican workers when they cross the border, but send their labor agents into Mexico to recruit people.
Many followed the railroads to the Midwest, drawn by the abundance of factory jobs in cities like Detroit, Chicago, and Gary, Indiana.
My father hears about coming to the United States and going into Gary, where there's a lot of work in the steel mill. Gary had the steel mill was going real good. So my father said, look, we're going to Gary. I'm going to get a job, and I'll send for you. My mother agreed to it. So it was about 6 months, and my father sent for us, sent a letter, let's go. And we took a train to Laredo. We got to the border, and they saw this letter, my father asking my mother to come in. And they didn't question it or anything. You going with your husband? Yes, and so on. And I remember that it cost her $8 American. They gave us a little piece of paper, and they said, you are now legal residents of the United States. There was no applications, none of that hassle. Just you come in, pay your $8, and away you go. That was amazing because of the problems that we're having right now.